Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of South of Mouth Sports. My name is Jeremiah. This is my brother, Brandon. Sorry, it's been forever. Brandon, it's been forever.
Been a minute, man.
Been what? Almost 6 weeks now?
I don't even know. I haven't even looked at the last time. We just had a whole lot of stuff going on. Sickness for both of us, and then some other personal things going on with our family and close friends and things like that. So anyways, we just haven't been able to get together and do this thing. And anyways, as you can see, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Chrysler. But welcome back, South of the Mouth Sports. And we're back at it again. So
coming at you live. So last time we talked, Alabama was looking really bad at football. Like they just forgot how to play football. That was probably about 2 weeks after Texas A&M beat them, I should say. Georgia was looking like the strongest team in the country, literally looking unbeatable. Michigan was about to play Michigan State, and I think you made the prediction that Michigan State was going to beat them, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Came in clutch on that one. And Ohio State was making their way back into the playoff conversation. That was where we left off.
I think I also said Ohio State was going to lose.
However, we are facing a college football playoff in a week or so, a week and a half, something like that. And we're going to get to see Alabama play Cincinnati.
Yes.
Who did, for all intents and purposes, blow every prediction I had on Cincinnati. I thought they were going to blow it out, like mess up at some point. I don't know. To me, Cincinnati is one of those teams that, while they're consistent, they're not playing anybody. They're playing Armies and they're playing UTEPs and UTSA and teams like that typically aren't good.
Right. A lot of people keep going back to they did go into Notre
Bend.
Yeah, Notre Dame. They're in their home field and beat them, and that is notable. However, they didn't do that several times. They did that one time. And I think they played Indiana too and beat them. And that's another Power 5 team, and that's a good win.
But Indiana fell off.
Well, too. Yeah, but Indiana's building something there. I mean, you look at their recruiting rankings, and they're climbing, man. There's a program building right there. But regardless, it's the fact that they don't have, and it's because of the conference they've been in.
Yeah.
Which we all know they're going to go to the Big 12 now, which
next year or the year after next, something
whenever
like
it goes down, which with Oklahoma exiting and Texas exiting, it's really, we're going to have to see how that shapes up. But Baylor, is growing under Dave Aranda and all that. So we're going to see how it helps Cincinnati moving forward to be in a conference. It's a Power 5 conference. And if they can stay consistent like that, is Luke Fickell going to stay there? Where is he going to, what's he going to do?
I thought with all the coaching hires that were going to go down, first off, Brian Kelly, the University of LSU.
Man, that's another thing. There have been so many coaching hires since the last time.
Seeing Lincoln Riley go to USC out of nowhere.
That was probably I don't know which was more surprising, him going to USC or Brian Kelly going to LSU, because I really did not see Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame. Not until I got to thinking about it after the fact, and it made a lot more sense, because he's, other than 1 year, he's had a winning record every year. They've been consistent. He's had them in the playoff a few times. They went to the national championship game, faced off against Alabama with Manti Te'o and his girlfriend. And, I mean, but anyway, so he's been, and he was successful with Cincinnati when he was there before. So, I mean, he's been a successful coach relatively
everywhere he's winning.
Right. And now he's going to be somewhere where he can actually get decent, consistent recruits that don't have to meet the rigorous standards of playing at Notre Dame. Now, that's one of the biggest deals for Notre Dame, is you have to meet some serious criteria to play there.
Like, you have to have really good scores in all your classes.
Right.
Coming up on the ACT, I think you got to have like a above 20 something, 25 on your ACT, stuff like that. Like,
now, don't get me wrong. I know there are certain coaches like a Nick Saban who requires, and Kirby Smart, who require their athletes to maintain a certain, like they don't require the bare minimum. They require more than
Yeah.
that. But because they want their
But
kids
that's coach to player.
right. They want their kids to succeed regardless of what
Notre
happens.
Dame is school to play.
Right. That's a school thing, not a coach thing. So they go above the NCAA minimum for the school. And so that's a whole different thing there. Now he can go into LSU, which is it's a big place, like a recruiting magnet. And they've lost some guys to the transfer portal. Max Johnson going to Texas A&M is huge.
Eli Ricks coming to Alabama.
Yeah,
That's
roll tide. And they've lost a few others. There was another rumor. I don't know. I haven't looked to see what's happening with Butte. Possibly
Keyshawn Butte or something like that.
Potentially maybe coming to Alabama as well.
I think it's actually pronounced "but."
Yeah,
but we're from Alabama. Everything's pronounced wrong.
Regardless, it's a big hire for LSU and possibly the best one in the field that they could have made outside of potentially getting Dave Aranda. I think he's probably the best coach on the field right now outside of maybe Kirby Smart or Nick Saban.
Dave Aranda going to Oklahoma is kind of scary.
And I say that because Baylor was in complete and utter disarray when he went there 2 years ago, and now they've won a Big 12 championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's, getting recruits in and winning in the transfer portal and stuff like that. So, that's the big stuff, man. And he's just a no nonsense type of coach. So,
it looks like Clemson's fallen way off the map now.
They say that it's a 3-loss season,
It's 3-loss season, but you're looking at all the coaches that are leaving. Dabo's not it don't look like he's in it anymore. It don't look like he cares anymore. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think Dabo loves South Carolina, and I think he loves Clemson and the whole Clemson Tigers family. And it's almost like, dang, my golden goose left. I got to reassess everything.
Yeah.
And DJU came out playing garbage this year.
Right.
He did not play good football at all.
He's one player I think that the NIL actually had a negative impact on, because it seems to me like, and it may not have anything to do with that, but he's one of the ones that you see on the Dr. Pepper commercials and stuff like that, and then didn't really back it up on the field.
Yeah.
So what's that going to do to him next year? I mean, is he still going to have, the sponsorships? Are they still expecting big things out of him? Because he was a projected first-round pick when he's coming out of this next season. But now, is he still going to be a projected first-round pick? Are the sponsorships still going to be there? I mean, all the pressure is going to be on him and Clemson to do something big. But I still think they're probably going to be the favorite in the ACC. I mean, maybe Pitt or them,
or Wake Forest. I mean, Wake Forest having a phenomenal year. That out of nowhere. I guess because down year here's the big kicker, right? FSU was looking at a top 10, top 5 recruiting class coming into this year. And then signing day, the number 1 recruit in the nation decides to snake them and go to JSU.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Deion Sanders.
Yeah, Coach Prime doing work down there.
Whatever you did to get that Travis Hunter kid.
Hey,
congrats. We approve.
Yes, sir. Put them on the map, man. I love it.
But looking at all these recruits that Florida State's having, I think that, with the way that the ACC has been down, they have an opportunity to rebuild kind of under the radar, right? Like they can get in some, they had that kid from Georgia that transferred, and they wound up going 5-6 this year after starting off 0-4.
Right.
They started off horrendous, but they were in close games, and they lost to Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
Second week of the season, and it's just looking at it. I'm not a huge Florida State fan. I'm not a huge ACC fan, but this is an opportunity. I feel like the big teams, if we don't have the FSUs, if we don't have the USCs, if we don't have the Oregons, if we don't have the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, the Oklahomas, the Texas, the Michigan, the Ohio States, if we don't have these teams being top tier, it's almost as if college football is lackluster at best.
Right.
and now we're seeing teams like Michigan come back into the fray and play solid football all year long. And Jim Harbaugh was on the hot seat coming into the season.
Yeah.
Finishes 11-1 with a 12-1 with a Big Ten championship and beats Ryan Day and Ohio State. It's unreal the amount of like craziness that this college football season brought us.
Insanity, pure insanity. Nobody I don't think anybody could have predicted what Michigan would have done, what Michigan State would have done. I mean, they finished with 2 losses.
After going, what was it, like 1 and something last year, 2 and something last year?
Yeah,
they were awful.
It was a pure mess. And I love how Harbaugh did it too. He's on the hot seat. A lot of guys may have just given up and just wrote it out until they fired him. You've seen a lot of coaches do that. I think Dan Mullen is a prime example. You could tell he just pretty much gave up instead of like digging in and fighting with his guys.
Well, he thought he was getting that job that Urban Meyer got in Jacksonville. And
probably
Urban gets that job. He's like, dang, I'm not going to Jacksonville.
He was possibly, there's a lot of rumor out there that he thought he was getting an NFL job, and that's possibly true. I don't even know. But the thing is, he started out even halfway decent this year, but you could tell after probably the loss to Kentucky, I would say, is really when it flipped on him. And then you could just see a gradual decline where it's like, okay, now he just doesn't even care. And you can tell, like he just in the way that his scheme is, the way he's substituting players and things like that. And it's just like
keeping Anthony Richardson on the bench and big and high profile. Like I get you want to go with your proven quarterback and Emory Jones, and you want to.
Where's the proof though?
But like I guess in his mind he's like, well, Emory Jones has been here for a couple of years. He knows the system. He knows what I want.
Well, but my point is, I think he was purposely tanking so they would fire him and he didn't have to quit.
You got this kid Anthony Richardson though, who is like top tier, top level, dude. Every time he comes in, he's rushing for 200 yards, throwing for 300. Like the dude is a phenomenal football player. Got the coolest nickname in all of college football, in my opinion. AR-15.
Yeah.
That's a cool nickname.
Right.
But then looking at it now, and adios Dan Mullen.
I don't know if you remember AK-47 in the NBA.
Yeah. Andre Karolinko.
Yeah.
The Russian dude with the straight hair.
Yeah.
That's a really cool nickname.
Yeah.
But yeah, adios Dan Mullen. Peace out. Step aside. Billy Napier's about to come in and rearrange everything that Florida has ever thought possible.
Right.
It's going to be another Steve Spurrier moment, in my opinion.
I imagine he'll have some success there. I don't think it'll be in the first year, maybe 2. But
I think it's going to be about 3 to 4 years.
It'll take him a while
but he's a young coach.
Exactly. He's got time. And that's another thing we keep seeing is if coaches don't have their team in the playoff in 3 years, teams want to, kick them out.
I think it's the Nick Saban effect.
And that probably has a lot to do with it, man. But I think it was Paul Feinbaum that said it, how did he say it? Alabama gets measured against perfection and other teams get measured against Alabama. And it's really a sad way to evaluate a team's, because like, look at Kirby Smart. And I think it was Josh Pate that made this point. He's 45 years old, man. And people are saying, if he doesn't beat Nick Saban this year, we might need to be talking about a change. Are you kidding me? He's the second best coach in the nation right now. You cannot debate that. That's not even really an argument.
Like at all.
He's consistent. I mean, maybe you could say Dabo has been because he's had more playoff and national championships over the past few years. But I mean, some people might say Ryan Day, but Ryan Day stepped into that program.
Yeah, Ryan Day's not like this is my take. This is a hot take. I don't think Ryan Day is better than.
He's not a better coach.
He's not. He might be top 5 in my opinion.
I don't think he's a better. I think Ryan Day stepped into a really great situation, and he just didn't bungle it.
Yeah,
I think he's a good enough coach where if he's got great players, he can consist. But he's got the best players in the nation outside of maybe Alabama. So, and he might even have better players there.
The best wide receiver room in all of college football.
But to backtrack to what I was saying, what was I saying?
just talking about the coaches and
Yeah. So you've got Kirby Smart, who has come in there and had, 10 plus win seasons almost every year since, in the 6 years, 7 years he's been there, right? He's been to the playoff. This is the second time he's been to the playoff. He's won what, 3 SEC championships,
something
2?
like that, 2 or 3.
He's been there 4 times, maybe 3 times, something like that. So, he's won the East 3 or 4 times. What more can you ask out of a coach than to be in the top 2 in your division every year and be competitive, finish in the top 5, finish in the top 2 or 3 in the rankings and recruiting every single year, and build a program? And you're only 45. You know how old Nick Saban was when he started at Alabama? 55, and he had 1 national championship. So
y'all won, guys.
Exactly. And like that, I think that was probably the most brilliant point that Josh Pate made when he was talking about that is Nick Saban started at 55 and since then has done what he's done. Kirby is 45. So he's got 10 years to start where Nick Saban started. And he's already ahead of the game. So all he has to do is just not be terrible until Nick Saban retires. And then who's going to be better than that?
I don't think that. My biggest problem, like I said, I made a comment the other day on Facebook after the firing of Jacksonville, when Jacksonville fired Urban Meyer. And I get, like, I'm not a supporter of Urban Meyer by no means, guys. I think Urban Meyer was not a great fit, and he's got a lot of off the field stuff that he needs to work on. But the biggest problem that I think the thing that me and Brandon both agree on is you cannot hire a coach and then expect them to win a national championship in year 2 or 3, especially when the previous coach did not win any recruiting battles.
Yeah.
Didn't do it. Perfect scenario, right? Josh Heupel, the coach at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
He inherited a mess, a dumpster fire, a trash bin.
Yeah.
After Jeremy Pruitt left.
Right.
After Jeremy Pruitt got fired in 3 years, might I add. That's not enough time for a coach to win, especially when they're inheriting something.
Well, they finished 7-5.
But they finished 7-5.
Yeah.
This year. 7-4, I think. 7-5. I don't know. It's something like that. And Josh Heupel has everybody in Knoxville believing. I had to remember Vanderbilt's in Nashville.
Right.
Everybody in Knoxville is believing that Josh Heupel is the next coming of Philip Fulmer.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind, dude.
And that's the thing. Like, he didn't have necessarily a better record than Pruitt ever had, but it's the way he did it. You know what I mean?
The attitude, the culture shift.
And how many
Sam
games
Pittman,
other than maybe Alabama and Georgia, I don't think Tennessee got blown out in any games. Every game was competitive, and even those games were competitive for a minute.
Yeah.
So you're looking at that and you're thinking, there's hope here, and that's the thing you're looking for in a coach. And then you have the Pruitt years where it's, you play the big dogs and it's not even a game ever.
Yeah.
And then when you're playing competitive games and barely winning against the other teams, you know what I mean? And then sometimes you don't even win those. So it makes a whole lot of difference. But not only that, it's how the players are. The players are fired up. And when you win the locker room, that says everything. And that's what
happened with Urban Meyer. He lost the locker room after week 11 or 12, kicking players and doing some really horrible things off the field. Like I said, I'm not in any support of Urban Meyer, but I look at these, you'll hire a coach, and then if they don't produce, you'll give them stipulations, and, you got to do this and you got to do that. And then if they don't produce under your stipulations that have obviously not worked in previous years, and now you're like, okay, well, you got to do it this way. This is the only way you can win. You got to play with this quarterback and this guy. And, that's why I think that's why it's so different in the NFL. That's why you see coaches like Nick Saban succeed at college, but don't succeed as much in the NFL. Mind you, Saban was like 16-17 or something like that. 15-17 in the NFL.
Now
that's almost 50%. I mean, it's what, 48%.
I think it was Colin Cowherd who said, it might be a little naive to assume that had Saban not stayed in the NFL, he might not have had success. He just left. He chose to leave because he didn't like the way, that he didn't like that they didn't give him enough
control or anything. And which,
right.
I get where Saban's coming from, because you, as a coach, as a, as the one entrusted to lead this team to victory,
Right.
it's your plays, it's everything you do.
Well, it's
But yet
players
you're given
too.
these scenarios that you need to play with this specific player.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, you want to be able to know which players are coming and how you're going to be able to. And I think too, Belichick has that
Yeah.
in New England. And, he can make that decision. He can say, no, I don't want him. I
Mac
want
Jones.
him. This is what I'm saying. Like he can make those calls, assuming that the player wants to come there.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But Saban didn't have that in Miami, and he could tell, I think, that wasn't going to be the case. So he was just like, deuces.
Well, he said it was what, this month, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 14, 15 years ago,
2006. Yeah.
He said that I will not be the next coach at the University of Alabama. I don't know how many times I got to tell you guys that. And 2 weeks later, he's flying into Tuscaloosa, putting his name on the contract and winning national championships after year 3.
Right.
So
Simply beautiful, man.
That recruiting class, and a lot of people don't give Saban enough credit, but that recruiting class, had he not gotten guys like Julio Jones and Mark Ingram to come in, those are culture guys. They're culture changing guys.
Right.
And you look at these higher success rated programs. Ohio State gets culture guys, Ezekiel Elliott. They get that kid that, came in third string and he's horrible now, Cardale Jones.
Yeah.
And they get guys like that to come in and play really good football. Oregon with Marcus Mariota, that's a culture guy. Everybody has those. Early 2000s, we're looking at the USC teams with Pete Carroll. He's a culture coach, brings in Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, and has a successful string of years.
I saw an interesting stat on, sorry to interrupt, but I saw a really interesting stat on ESPN, and they were showing all the coaches that went from the NFL or from the NCAA college ranks to NFL and their lack of success. And you know who they left out?
Pete Carroll.
Exactly.
Because he's been successful.
And he's still there.
He's still there.
Like he was the only one that wasn't there. And I was like, that's weird.
That's suspicious. I thought everybody was horrible when they got in the college ranks.
They had Harbaugh in there who was relatively successful.
Like he went to a Super Bowl, did he not?
Exactly.
And played against his brother?
And he
coached against his brother?
He had a winning record while he was in the NFL too. So, that's just so weird, man.
It's one of those, like, college football is a unique sport in and of itself. And now with players getting paid, and we're looking at the Quinn Ewers situation.
Right.
Might I add, Texas is going to be really great next year. That's just my opinion. I'm throwing that out there. That's my way too early prediction. I think Texas turns from a 4 or 5 win team to a 11 win team.
It might be.
And Quinn Ewers is probably going to win either
if they
come
don't
close to winning the Heisman or win the Heisman.
If they stay in the Big 12 next year, they might win the Big 12 next year.
I just like that kid is
it'll probably be between them and
every game that I've watched.
It'll probably be between them and Baylor next
Oklahoma.
year.
I think Oklahoma. I don't know.
No, I mean they got a new coach coming in, but it's going to be in disarray. They've lost a lot of players in the transfer portal. And I mean, I know they got Caleb Williams so far that is staying, but he might even still come out. We don't know if he's going to stay or not.
True. And he said that him and Spencer Rattler wasn't best friends. Speaking of Spencer Rattler, before we go to break, and we're going to talk about this as soon as we come back from break, Spencer Rattler chose South Carolina and Shane Beamer to be his new home.
No, Shane Beamer was on the offensive staff at Oklahoma, and that's how they knew each other.
That's just
interesting. That's good. So that's probably the best quarterback that, and we can go ahead and talk about it. We got a couple more minutes, but that's the best quarterback prospect that South Carolina's had since
Steven Garcia.
Maybe he's better than Garcia. Great. I mean, I can't remember in the time that I've watched football, I can't remember a better quarterback prospect. And I know a lot of people are down on Rattler, but he's a good football player, man.
He's really good at football, and he makes decent decisions. I think it was just a system problem. I don't think he fit what Oklahoma was trying to do this year.
Right. It seemed to me too that maybe there was some disconnect with his O-line, because you see when Williams goes in,
they play really hard.
Right. And so I think this happens a lot when there is a player that the other players have a little more respect for. And if we're being realistic, Spencer Rattler's a good player, but Williams is a better player.
Yeah.
Even as a freshman, he's a better football player. And so if you got the freshman is the better player, and everybody on the offense knows that it's hard to get up for the guy that you're afraid. I mean, you have fear that this guy's going to screw it up, and you know that the better guy's on the bench. And so they're just barely skating by every single game, and they're doing the best they can. But then they get this other guy, and they're like, yeah, let's get pumped.
Yeah.
And then they're making all the blocks. This guy comes in, and he's just on fire. It makes sense to me. Now, I don't know. That's just kind of my own point of view about it, but that's what I think.
I think that this is what really lights a fire under Spencer Rattler. I think we're going to see.
Well, I think he's going to have an offensive line that'll block for him. I think he's going to have a tight end that's going to play for him.
And I
he's
think
going to have receivers that are going to play for him. And they got a few good receivers there. So
I think the big thing is coach trust. I think that right there is, he's going to have the ability to change plays at the line. He's going to have the ability to, like, I think that was the biggest thing with Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley didn't want to give him the keys to the offense necessarily. It was like,
Right.
hey, we're going to run this. You don't really see Spencer Rattler checking down or checking off plays or anything.
I think probably some of that too had to do with him knowing that there was a better guy waiting behind him. And if he screwed up, he was going to lose.
Yeah, it was just like, hey,
but he ain't got to worry about that at South
you don't
Carolina
have to worry about that
because there is nobody that could replace him unless if he gets hurt. But
he's got 3 more years of eligibility. Thank you to the COVID year. He's got that extra, and he's a sophomore this year, wasn't he? Something like that, or a junior. He might have been a junior this year.
He was a redshirt freshman last year, so he's a sophomore. The redshirt sophomore.
He's got 3 more years of eligibility, and he could change his entire future.
I don't imagine he would play full 3. If he has one good year next year, I think it would probably he just wants to be a first round pick. So if he gets himself back in the first round conversation, then but there's going to be a lot of really good guys in that conversation. So.
True. And you got to think Bryce Young is going to be coming out next year.
That's what I'm saying.
So I think 2 years max, maybe 3 years.
Right.
But I do like that he went to South Carolina. It was kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
A lot of us were thinking maybe he goes to Ole Miss.
It says a little bit about his character too, because a lot of people down his character, but I mean, even in the SEC East, that's still saying, hey, I'm willing to go play in a tougher conference. It's tougher than the Big 12.
Exactly.
So
a lot tougher.
Anyway, yeah, we're going to take a break here. Hang in. We'll be back in a few minutes to talk some more college football.
Peace.